tell you why yes. And he doesn't view it that way, but that's it. You know why? Yeah, he's a feisty one. He has really strong opinions. And actually, he was one of the peer reviewers for the book. Really, yeah, which is really good. Because he was, you did some assholes. Yes. Peer reviewers. But he really, but he took someone off. But that's what it's achieved. So they said the king was just having records at the So, yes, it was. All I had to do was say nothing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All right, good evening, and thank you again for coming tonight. This is the last night of this week that we'll be having a program, so we begin again on Monday. And also remember, daylight savings time begins, so just a heads up. So tonight we are actually beginning Easter itself. So we have Holy Saturday, Easter Day, and Quasimodo Sunday. Easter Vigil is a very odd service, and in Lord Mystique, this is the one office that only has 3 movements instead of the 5. A communion, an offertory, and postlude. The postlude is intriguing because it is very quiet, and it's actually the beginning of the Easter Vigil service, which is the light of Christ, thanks be to God. So it's the lighting of the Paschal candle, and actually there's a, technically speaking, at Easter Vigil, there's a 3 there's a candelabra with 3 candles, and so you say, Light of Christ, thanks be to God. First candle's lit, there's a procession halfway through, second candle, Light of Christ, then third candle, Light of Christ. And then during the Exultet, the Paschal candle is lit, and, well, blessed and lit. And it's a very elaborate ceremony. And so the organist Adrian Gunning we were commenting about this piece of music, and he was saying of the postlude for Easter Vigil, oh, you're playing with the angels. And that really stuck with me because it is a very serene piece, and it really does convey the silence of light. It's really an amazing work. The Easter Day. Easter Day was the first office that Tournemire wrote. So this was finished in 1927, actually on November 11th, so Armistice Day, so it was kind of a memorable day. You'll find that 3 of the leitmotif chants are used. So we had talked about the leitmotif chants, the Ego Dormivi, the Venite, and the Te Deum. Then there's the Ave Maris Stella, which is just associated with the Marian feast. The Ego Dormivi, just to review, I have slept but now have awakened. That's from Easter Matins. And then the Venite is, O come, let us sing to the Lord. It's the inventory of Matins. Part of the significance of the inventory is that it has the sea is his and he made it passage. And we had talked about Tournemire and his love of the ocean. He quotes that leitmotif chant in his book on César Franck, his teacher and predecessor at Sainte Clotilde. When he wrote that book, it was at the time of writing Lord Mystique, and while that book was ostensibly a biography or a musicology work of the works of César Franck, it was really his manifesto on writing Lord Mystique, and he actually talks about the process of writing Lord Mystique. We actually, last night on the way out, we were talking about, and I think it was mentioned in some other sessions, you know, like how do I read into all these movements, what these are about? And we were talking about, on the way out, about Bach and how one person was talking about how you read into this, the B minor, prelude and fugue. Well, this is sort of like the harrowing of hell. And I'm not sure that, I think I get sometimes criticized for reading into Tournemire because they view it the same way as reading into Bach. And unlike Bach, Tournemire actually did write an awful lot about what he thought about music. So I am just sort of filling in certain gaps of interpretation. But books like his César Franck book, he tells you, this is what I am trying to achieve here. And so while it seems like I'm reading into Tournemire, it's really not. I'm just filling in the gaps. I took, last night when we did the seed and the sower parable, all you had to do was just call up the lesson for that day and read the chants, and you knew it was the parable. Because like when we look at tonight's Easter postlude and reading into his, reading the César Franck book and knowing his history with the ocean and seeing that connection, That's how you know what Tournimire is trying to do. The Ego Dormivi, which is also from the same office of Matins, I have slept but now have awakened. And relative to what point he was at his life, and having gone through a number of failures and looking to Lord Mystique as this new awakening, that is, you could read into that, but if you knew the biography and what he was doing at that time period, it's not really reading into it. The postlude for Easter Day will end surprisingly, because it will actually end very quietly, which you wouldn't think would be the case. It does get quite loud, so you won't be disappointed. It is the office or the piece that has the most number of chants. It's the full service for Easter Day in one piece of music, so it's very, very complicated. Then Quasimodo Sunday, and I've said this before, but if Quasimodo rings a bell, the Victor Hugo book Notre Dame, the character Quasimodo was left at a foundlings as a child. There was an altar where mothers who didn't want their child would leave their baby. And if you look at the introit for Quasimodo, as newborn babes desired the milk, Victor Hugo was drawing that connection to this child that now lost its mother. And so that's where the name comes from. And Quasimodo is the introit for the Sunday after Easter. I find the postlude for Quasimodo is one of the most, it is one of the more engaging works, because it's the legend of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So the youths that are thrown into the furnace for not worshiping an idol. And as the legend goes, there's a fourth figure in the furnace that rescues them. And so in this piece, you'll hear the flames swirling around the three, and then you'll hear the fourth mysterious figure that is rescuing them from their fate. And then Nebuchadnezzar gets perturbed and throws more wood, has them throw more wood into the fire, and the flames surge, and then still this fourth figure comes through. And this particular legend is one of the 12 prophecies read at Easter Vigil, and that fourth figure in Christology is Christ, and it's sort of a prophecy of the resurrection, and so that's why it's associated with Easter. So that said, here is Easter Vigil, Easter Day, and Quasimodo Sunday. Thank you. So, any comments or questions? Well, that's again, I think you have to remember that is a postlude to a service. So ending quietly like that and telling a story is probably very daring as far as doing something in a liturgical setting. But that said, I think one thing that we have to talk about is what the word liturgy means. Because a popular misconception, or it's actually, they just take the compound word from the Greek to mean the work of the people. And that is technically correct if you split the word up. But the word liturgy actually doesn't, in modern context, that is usually trying to have the people participate, like say something or physically do something. But what the word actually means in Greek is, well, first of all, it's not people in the sense that we consider people in the United States, a bunch of individuals doing something. We live in a country where freedom is held up above society. And what the word people in liturgy actually means is society. So it's not a bunch of individuals. And the word work doesn't actually mean an actual task. It's more akin to the word opus or oeuvre, so like a work of art. So it is a societal oeuvre or a societal opus. And it's not an act that is performed in the true sense, in the sense that we are told what it means today, because we believe, we're a society more about personal freedom than doing something for a greater purpose. And so a better analogy for what liturgy is actually something like the Lincoln Memorial. That is a societal work. And so the Statue of Liberty is a societal work. And if you look at Europe and most cultures before the modern age, they would have monuments to principles. If you went to any medieval town, in the town square, there would be a cross there. Or if you go to maybe Italy, a guild would have a certain artistic symbol pointing to the ideals of that guild. And that's how, in ancient Rome, you would have a statue to victory or a statue to this principle or that principle. In the Middle Ages, we moved from the gods to saints and patron saints, where they would, a patron saint would, in a certain sense, have the same function as a Greek or Roman god, where they would compartmentalize ideals into an individual. And and so you would see maybe St. Christopher, for example, and dealing with the care of children and stuff like that. And so when we look at liturgy, this is a societal opus. It's a monument that we are creating. Although it's a performed object, is not a performance. It's not what our church services tend to be like, especially in non-liturgical circumstances, which is basically a Rotary Club meeting, where we're just, we have a keynote speaker and coffee hour and, like a little entertainment segment, and which sounds belittling, but that's actually what, it is a community meeting, with, a God idea that draws people together. Whereas in liturgical situations, you are creating a civic monument. And so that, I think, is a really important paradigm that you have to have, and something that I believe that we need to be educating our congregations concerning, because we need to make that paradigm shift. We live in a country of personal freedom. that is not guided towards greater things, including each other or greater principles. And that's kind of where we're at right now. But anyway, when you hear these pieces, think of them as civic monuments and part of something that is in the public sphere, and it is not a performance. And it's not part of a Rotary Club meeting where we're entertaining the congregation or even edifying them. We're speaking to a greater principle. So anyway, that said, but that actually, while that sounds kind of preachy, this is actually what Lord Mystique is trying to do. And these are the principles of this whole series, trying to get you to think about liturgy and why we gather once a week and what we're trying to achieve. So as we march forward into next week, we have the rest of Easter, including Good Shepherd, Rogation Tide, we have Ascension, and I think we finish up with Pentecost next week, because after we move through Easter, we enter the season of Pentecost, or the Sundays after Pentecost, and that whole, it goes for about 20 weeks, is a huge Sonata Allegro. And so we'll be going through a 4-week-long or 3 or 4 week-long Sonata Allegro piece. And during that time, because we're going to be leaving some of the narratives that the main part of the liturgical year contains, with the resurrection, the birth, we're going to start getting into more about Tournemire's life, more about the Third Republic, and what happened during that period and why that helped shape the creation of Lord Mystique, and so forth. So we can get a little bit more into the history and probably a little bit more, well, not that religion isn't controversial, but also the politics, which is of France, which is was quite something or other. It was, French, all I have to say is the French. So anyway, any questions or any comments? Yes?
My first night attending, really lovely, and I was wondering, what is the relationship between what's in the text here and what you're playing?
Oh.
How is it connected?
Yeah. So each of these movements is based upon, so the question is about the little program. Each of these movements is based upon a Gregorian chant or a set of Gregorian chants. So I just include the incipit, or the first measure or so, but to give you a sort of a musical idea of what these pieces are. But they are also, Tournemire is also taking the libretto from these chants and interpreting them. So they are, in a lot of ways, tone poems based upon these texts. And also I include in here like the epistle and the gospel for each of those Sundays, because not only are they tone poems on the actual chants, they are also tone poems on the lessons of the day. When I was talking earlier about, like reading into Lord Mystique, part of the Tournemire problem was when these works were published, they didn't include any program notes. So they just put the music there, and people took his music just on its aesthetic. And part of dealing with Tournemire was finding out about his life, looking at his writings, and trying to put together what should have been put into the scores to begin with. There was a guy at the that followed Tournemire, Olivier Messiaen, who organists well know. He actually wrote the text that all of his pieces were based upon. And I think that really helped him because his music is even more dissonant, but because it has the narrative there, you can, you accept the dissonance a little more willingly. And part of the reason for this series is to sort of make sense of what his music is. That final postlude is kind of ridiculous sounding, but once you know it's the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and you hear the flames swirling in the fourth figure, it all makes sense. Or yesterday when we did the verriere, or the stained glass window, and we realized that it's based upon the epistle of the day. We see through the glass dimly, I know only in part, but then I will know fully. And you realize that chromatic chorale at the beginning was him, was seen through the glass dimly. And then the toccata that happens after that is the light shining through. So that's what these all these chants are, and what the text for each of these things, like the Gospels. It's trying to help you make sense of the sound that you're hearing, and get some meaning out of it. So that's what this is all about. And and feel free to ask any questions, and even if you don't want to ask publicly, feel free to ask. Oh, yes, another question.
What does it mean to say that his music is mystical?
What does it mean? What does it mean to say his music is mystical? The problem with the word mystical is, we're post 1960s hippies era, and there can be a lot of hippy-dippy understandings of what being mystical is, like that. And for Tournemire, it was a lot more esoteric. His mysticism probably would be better framed on metaphysical, and mysticism is a blend of metaphysics and the artistic interpretation of that, the poetic understanding of that. And by poetic, I mean seeing the symbolic and beautiful nature of this and conveying it through a language of art. So it is not just like a feeling, like oh my gosh, I'm in this happy realm that's not related to the world. This is a metaphysical understanding, the truth behind what the truth within and beyond the perception of the phenomenological. Let's face it. The one thing that comes to mind with epistemology and all this stuff, Claude Monet, when he would do the water lilies, as he got older, his pictures of the water lilies, or his paintings, started to change color. And that's because he was getting cataracts. And so his perception of color changed as he got older. And that is, in a lot of ways, an epistemological issue. As he got older, the amount of information he could take in from the world started to decline, or end, or at least change. And it didn't mean that blue changed. It just, his epistemology, his tools for perception changed. And that is, goes to the true nature of religion, understanding that our perception, which not only includes our senses, but our ability to process information, is a limiting factor. We didn't know microwaves exist back in the day. We had to invent an epistemological tool to figure out that a microwave exists, and now we can heat our dinners or whatever. So mysticism or metaphysics or religion is about getting beyond our sense perception, not denying it, but trying to come to an understanding of what's truly there. And ultimately, when you go down that route, like Thomas Aquinas went, like when he went down his route, he came to the question, this is what we call God. And there was Aquinas, I don't know if you know the story, but he went through all these proofs of God, and he just intellectualized it. But then there was one day, something happened, and he couldn't speak. It was like a disturbingly long time. And finally, when he regained his ability to speak, he wrote that everything that I had written is as straw. And even though he could intellectualize the existence of God, he had this moment of absolute revelation that left him dumbfounded, that even an intellectual process was falling short. And in his poetry for Corpus Christi, I think there's one phrase it goes, how does it go? Signs, not things we see. And what he's saying is, we have to see through the phenomenological to get to the truth that's actually within that moment. And so anyway, that's the world that Tournemire is living in. And this is why people don't understand him. Because a lot of people go to church, as we discussed before, more for the social and the sense of belonging or giving meaning or, variety of reasons. And it's really not to delve into that sort of level of religion. And that's kind of the ilk of his mysticism. Any other questions? Feel free, and if you have any, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me privately, because I definitely know people don't like saying things in front of people. But anyway, well, thank you very much, and we begin next week. Remember, daylight savings time, and the weather's going to be fabulous, so hopefully we'll have a nice crowd beginning next week. Thank you very much. Looking forward to next week, like I said.